Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn and today I'll be crafting with some of the new products that just hit the Crafty Meraki website. So if you haven't already checked out the release, definitely pop on over to Crafty Meraki because there is a lot of new exciting products to hit the shop. Now I've pulled in, this is actually a previous release, the Evergreen Elegance EAP. I thought that would really go nicely with my project today. So that's a previous release, but new coming out today is this Lux Lily's Effortless Artistry paper. If you're not familiar with EAP, it's really fabulous. I've become a huge fan. Now, what you get with each paper pad is fully printed 4 different colorways of these gorgeous images. They've been hand colored by our design team members and they are alcohol marker colored and printed so that you can use them straight away. And what's great is that every designer has their own style of coloring. And so with every EAP, you do get 4 different color variations, different styles of coloring, and because it has been hand colored, it still has that very handmade look. Now, the EAP system of products is really wonderful because you can get the stamp that matches exactly with the EAP and the die coordinates with both. So you can use the die to stamp, color, and die cut, or use the die to cut out your EAP. Everything is sold individually, so you can pick and choose how you like to craft with these images, and it gives you ultimate flexibility to craft the way that you want. New with this release is that Lux Lily's and the other EAP collections that have come out, they will have a solid single stamp as you see here in front of me, but you also have the option to get them as individual stamps. So if you prefer, instead of having one stamp that will stamp out all of the images in one go, you can get the stamp as single individual stamps. That's new with the various EAP collections that are releasing or did release today. So that's really awesome. You want to check that out. There's so many new collections then beyond just the Lux Lilies that I have. Now these are really great. They are new border strip dies that come in really fun different patterns. This one is zigzag zoom and each die will cut 4 strips and you'll get 3 different widths of strips. So that's really fabulous. They're each 8.5 inches long, and that means that whatever card or project size you're making, these will be perfect for that because you've got thin strips, you've got thicker strips, but they're all really long. So if you do like to make your larger size cards, then you've got these for you. Now I've got zigzag zoom and wavy wonder, but there's also chevron chic. You do want to pop on over to the Crafty Meraki shop because there's lots of other standalone dies as well as the new EAP collections that just came out. And in fact, if you want to pop on over to the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel, during release week, there's going to be a new live premiere video with various different designers showcasing different collections within this release. And there's going to be promotions and special sales all week long. So pop on over. Every day is going to be a new treat. Now, what I do whenever I get a new EAP is I like to die cut out all 4 of the different color variations so that I have them to work with. It's basically like making my own set of ephemera. Now, I've also pulled out my Tsukaneko walnut inks, and what I thought I would do is I still want to put my own little stamp, my own little creativity on these pre-colored, pre-printed images. And so what I thought I would do is very quickly just stain these and give them a little bit of a vintage and antique-y look. And that's what these walnut inks are really great for because they're very earthy. The colors are very subdued in that way. They're all based on a walnut ink solution. And so they have that earthiness to them. And so you can take something that's really bright, beautiful, and colorful, and then give it an entirely different look by using the walnut inks. Now, these papers, they are sort of a matte finish, maybe a semi gloss. But because they don't have that glossy finish to them, they actually take to the ink really, really well. So you could use other sprays. You could try your mica stains, your distress sprays, things like that, whatever you have. If you don't have sprays, you could maybe try just inking with your ink pad. Maybe smoosh your ink pad into a silicone mat or a glass mat and give it a spritz, and then dip some of these die cuts into it and color it that way. So I'm going to start off with my pink walnut ink. I think it's Cherry Blossom, and I'm going to spritz right over this, and you can see immediately it changes the look of this die cut. It gives it this pinkish hue to it, but it's not a bright pink. It's a very subdued pink. And I want to make sure as I'm doing this to get rid of all of the white, because I'm going for a very vintage old look, and I don't want to waste any of this gorgeous pigment. So with a just some scrap cardstock here, nothing special, it's not watercolor paper or anything. I'm just going to use that to mop up my glass mat essentially. And as I spritz and spray these various different die cuts, I will basically clean my work surface with that cardstock. And then I'm going to use that to make a background and die cut from it. So with the leaves, I decided to spray those with the Willow walnut ink spray. And again, I like to get right in there, get your fingers dirty. These wash out, very easily. It's not going to stain your fingers forever, so you don't have to worry about that, because they are water-based, and so really, really great. And they are made from walnuts, which give them a very earthy, natural look, and it also makes them a archival safe, acid-free medium to work with. So really great for alternative to, say, coffee staining or tea staining. But it gives you, especially when you use the browns like I'm going to use on these, gives you a little bit of that same effect. And if you feel like with the brown it's too dark, you can always spritz some water over top to lighten it up too, if you don't want quite as intense of a color. But I like it because I want to, well, at the time I was doing this, I wasn't sure if I was going to combine these elements, which ones I was going to use. I just wanted to prepare a lot so that I have options. Because if I'm going to get messy like this, I want to get all of the messy crafting out of the way first, clean everything up, and then when I go to assemble my card, I'll have a lot of options to work with, and I don't want to have to stop to get messy again and make some more elements. And to tie everything in, because as I mentioned, I wasn't too sure if I want to use these together or separately, I am going to just dab a little bit of the walnut ink in brown over top the other die cut elements. And that makes everything tie in a little bit together, but still keeps them, a little bit different from each other so that there's some variation and not everything is that super, super rich, dark, earthy brown. And of course, I don't want any of this ink to go to waste, so I'm just going to clean up my glass mat by essentially using my cardstock as a bit of a rag almost. And that's the beginning of a really great background, but there's still too much white showing. So what I'm going to do is spritz even more on top of this. And I want one end to have that really lovely green, And then on the opposite end, I will make this a little bit more towards the pink. That way, whatever I decide to do with this, I have some options. If I want to make die cut a panel from it, I could do that. Or I think what I'll lean towards doing is actually die cut from this and make some strips. So after letting everything dry, because you want to make sure everything's nice and dry before you start to handle it. Gives you a little bit more assurance that you're not going to pick up some of that ink and then accidentally transfer it. So this is what's left over from that panel. I did end up using Wavy Wonder. And so now I have some pink strips that I think with the pink I used the medium width, and I used the widest strip for my greens. And what I did was I took the Versacolor Pinecone ink pad, I swiped it against some of my craft color cardstock to give me this really, really dark brown. It's a very, very rich dark brown that is very, very close to that walnut ink at its darkest. So I thought this would be a good complement to some of that very dark walnut ink. And because the dark color is so, it has so much contrast to everything else, I cut that out of the thinnest of the Wavy Wonder dies. That's the really great thing about having the variation in widths, because you can really kind of control the color balance that way. And I've got, I'm just going to tile some of these strips onto some washi and do a little bit of a dry fit just to play with some layouts, see how many of these strips I want to use. I mean, it's really great because every time you run the die through, you get 4 strips in each of the width. So I was actually able to fit, because I have a large platform Gemini machine, I was actually able to die cut all 3 strips at the same time. So I got a lot of strips, all 12 strips to play with. And I think that's really, really fun. So I'm attaching it just temporarily with some washi from the back. And that way I can work with this as if it was just one single element on my card. And it will just make it a little bit easier for me to kind of preview, where everything goes. So to start assembling my card, I want to do a little bit of vignetting on my craft color panel here. So I've just taken that same Pinecone ink pad and with a sponge dauber, just inking all the way around all 4 edges. Kind of gives it a little bit of a more of that aged look, more of that vintage look. And it helps to also focus your eyes a little bit more towards the center, because it's lighter, it's a little bit more bright, and there's no real white on this card, so everything's going to be pretty much those earthy colors, except for my sentiment, which I want to really pop, really stand out. The high is actually from Meraki Moments, which released earlier this year. I love the Meraki Moments sentiments. I really hope more of them do come out, because very similar to the EAP system of products, the Meraki Moments are fabulous because, again, lots of different ways of mixing and matching, and just depending on the style of crafter you are, you have a lot of different options for how to work with this wonderful swoopy sentiment. I'm using the die form, which has 3 layers you can assemble, and I actually, the topmost, the white layer, I actually stacked 3 of those to give even more dimension, but then you get 2 shadow layers beneath that. Really, really great. Lots of options. Then there's a coordinating stamp set, which has not only that same high sentiment that the die will cut out for you, so you can use the dies to cut the stamp, but there's also a lot of sub-sentiments that you can add to complete your sentiment. And then as well, if you like to hot foil, there's a hot foil plate option too, and that includes a die that will coordinate and cut it out. Now, to start assembling my card, I wanted to position my sentiment first, but I want the florals to tuck behind it. So what I did was I put 3D glue gel behind my sentiment for a couple of reasons. One, it gives me that lift. It gives me that extra dimension. But two, because that glue gel takes forever to dry, it's also going to give me a lot of time to kind of tuck these little floral elements and foliage pieces wherever I want. For me, it's really hard to figure out where the flowers should go until I know where the sentiment is. And then I'll kind of tuck and, snip, here and there, because I did snip this leaf off of the original Lux Lilies die cut. And I'm going to tuck that back in. I just wanted it in a different position so that more of it's actually visible from behind the word hi. So that's why I wanted to use the glue gel, because it gives me that option of still being able to slip something underneath there. Then to make this card a little bit more kind of grungy almost, a little bit of that mixed media feel, I am going to splatter some white. The reason why I chose white, because I debated also a dark brown, and maybe you could splatter some more of the walnut ink over for even more dimension. But I went with white because the sentiment is white, and so I thought it might be nice to have just a little bit of the speckled white across the card. It makes the sentiment, it kind of ties the white of the sentiment into the rest of the card as well, so that it's not sticking out like a sore thumb. So that's my finished card. Really had a lot of fun with this one. So I hope that you can see that the EAP, a lot of fun to craft with. You can still make it your own, even though it's already pre-colored and pre-printed and ready to craft with. There's still lots of craftability with it. I'll leave links to everything in the description box below. And until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.